Hello again, and thank you for joining us this Monday. I hope everybody had a really nice weekend. My name is Tara. I'm with Love Prevails, and with Love Prevails, we do offer peer support services and intervention services to help the families, friends that are watching their loved ones struggle with addiction. Um, my goal is to work with you and to help you get your loved ones into treatment, and I'd love for you to reach out to me. I do have my friend River here today. It's been a long time since I've seen you, River, but I have missed you, and I'm so glad that you've agreed to do this video with me. How are you?
I'm doing really well today. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
What'd you do this weekend?
Well, last night I went to a surprise wedding for other people that I've met in my recovery journey, and it was a really beautiful opportunity to connect with a lot of other sober people and experience the celebration with a clear mind, honestly. Yeah.
How did that feel? Being a part of, because of weddings, there's usually a lot of alcohol with weddings.
Yeah.
And you said that this was with a lot of sober people.
Yeah.
How was that? Was it fun?
It was so much fun. I think, we were kind of all laughing about just the stories that room could tell. And it was really cool to be in a place where there was no alcohol there. And everyone just, it wasn't awkward. It wasn't weird. People were dancing and laughing and eating and having a really good time. And there's a lot, it was also really nice to see people, like you, that I haven't seen in a long time. But we all share a really similar story. So it was fun to connect and see where we were at and how we were doing.
Yeah, it's a different kind of fun. I know that I've gone dancing a few times, and it's still a lot of fun. I don't feel like I'm missing out on anything. I actually feel like I'm getting more out of what I'm doing because my purpose is to go and have fun, not to drink.
Yeah.
So it is very different.
Yeah. I think that's that's been the most, that is the recovery journey in a nutshell, where and not to jump into this too soon or anything,
no, you're
but
good.
It's there's so many moments when I was in active addiction where I was doing the things that I knew that I should love, and I was hating them, or I was too messed up to enjoy them, or I couldn't remember them, or all the, just name one of those things, and they were all true at some point.
Or you wake up regretting what just happened. Yeah.
And there, for me, there's so many times where I just want to connect with community and talk to my people and have a good time and enjoy and feel connected. And it was too obvious that for me alcohol was getting in the way of that and causing me to burn bridges that I didn't want to burn, and hurt people's feelings or do things that I regretted. And it was well, it has to be one or the other. Yeah.
You mentioned something that actually, so I did some training this last weekend and met a lot of really incredible people in the sober community. And one of the things that came up was that connection. And one of the things that we talked about was there's a lot of people that are active in their addiction, and they take that route, where they're burying their feelings. A lot of people are just lacking that need for connection. And it's such a loneliness. And I know even in my own active addiction, I just needed to be connected. I felt like I was alone, and there's nobody there for me. I couldn't turn to anybody. And so I love that you mentioned that, because it is a big part of why we stay in our addiction and why we're sick. It's that we're just missing that connection. And I can be alone now and still feel like I'm connected. And instead of feeling like I'm just hopelessly alone. And so I love that. I know that you and I, we have about the same amount of sobriety.
Mm-hmm.
We've gone to a lot of meetings and things together, and that's how we've got to know each other. And I know that you're super active in the art world
Mm-hmm.
here in Denver, which is I've seen a lot of your things that you post on social media and stuff like that. And it looks like really an incredible experience.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you my perception of the art world, there's a lot of drugs, a lot of alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
How do you stay active in that and maintain your sobriety?
Mm-hmm. I think, well, two things. One is that if I wanted to maintain like my act, like making art and like being in the art world and like doing these artist activations that I do, I just knew like I couldn't do it and continue to like get messed up because it was gonna come crashing down and I could see it happening already. And so I knew that I had to. And I also knew that when I got sober, that like those things had to be a part of my life still. Like
Mm-hmm.
um, I knew that I was going to be turning up. Like I remember early in recovery where I was like, okay, things are changing, I'm changing, but like these things are just so core and essential and a part of me. And so early in recovery, it was like going to going to events with other sober people, like inviting all my sober friends to events, having an exit plan, ha- talking to like letting other sober friends know like if they weren't coming with me, where I was going, when I expected to be home, and calling them before and after. Um, doing and it was early on it was like trying so many of these different things to figure out what worked for me, and at first it was honestly hard. It
Mm-hmm.
was I also really like to go out dancing, as we kind of talked about, and like there were early on in recovery I was like, I'm gonna do this no matter what, and I got in situations that were really scary, and
Mm-hmm.
I had to like leave quickly, or call people like 1 in the morning and stuff. And today I just like don't put myself in those situations as much, and I like always go with another sober friend, and I have like things have started to shift a little bit, but today it's easier because honestly because like the obsession has left, and I have a lot of protection around me.
Do you still find that you're still creative? Do you
Oh
still
yeah, yeah,
you're
more.
perfect? Do you think you're more creative?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I find that I have more access to that for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I remember I was reading the story of Cage the Elephant, the lead singer for Cage the Elephant, and his recovery journey.
Mm-hmm.
And he was afraid to get sober because he was afraid it would take away his creative side, and it didn't.
Mm-hmm. I will like. I have I have this memory of in college. I had a professor and she was a writing professor, and that's like the background that I came from was poetry, and she was like, you don't have to be depressed to be a writer, and you don't have to use drugs and alcohol to be a writer. And I remember sitting there and being like, yeah, right, like she doesn't know what she's talking about. And I like all my icons and all my idols were all died young and used heavily.
Mm-hmm.
And I've found in sobriety that like you don't need those things, that there's access to that. And I think the difference is I have to choose it. Like I set aside time to work on art or work on my creativity. I also like join groups of people doing these things and like create that community around me. When in addiction it was just like I was like using alcohol to get there, and there was like a short time where it was like kind of easy, where I'd have a couple drinks, then I'd find myself creative, and then I always passed it.
Mm-hmm.
After that,
Yeah.
it was like I can never find that sweet spot anymore.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit of what brought you into sobriety. and why do you stay?
Well, earlier when we were talking, I was thinking about it, like towards the end, when things were getting darker and darker. I remember I was out with a friend. I was like in the last days of my addiction, I was collecting sober friends because I think that I knew subconsciously that I needed to get sober, and I have no idea why they hung around me. But my therapist as well, I like specifically sought out a sober therapist without ever telling them that I thought that I had a problem, even though I certainly did. But anyway, I was out with a friend at the park one day, and we were just talking, and I was asking her why or how she got sober. She had like 5 years at the time, and she said, I was realizing that I like was losing my community, and what the most important thing to me was connection and community. And it just like stung because I was like, same, like that. I feel alone even when I'm in a group of people because I'm always like more messed up than everybody else is. I like can't connect with anyone. And I just knew that I had to make a change. And what eventually got me in was that like a couple like really terrifying blackouts, where I was like, I can keep doing this and go to the bitter end, which is seemingly like going to be around the corner any day now. And or I can try to stop, but I knew that I couldn't just put down alcohol. I tried so many times. I tried to, I would blow something up in my life and I'd be like, okay, I'm gonna like stay sober for a month, and I could never do a dry January. I just kept on trying, and I couldn't get more than a couple days strung together.
Yeah. I had a friend long before I ever realized I had an issue, but this friend was a severe alcoholic, like severe, could not go a minute without alcohol, and he's since died. But I remember I would just watch him all the time, and I would think, he is so popular and he has so many friends, but he is the loneliest guy in the room. And it's true.
That's what we do.
So why do you stay? What makes you stay?
I mean, today my life is just so much better. I had moments where I felt joy, or like I had fun a lot of times out partying, but now I have like my consistent baseline is happiness and joy and like love. And it sounds like cheesy sometimes, but it's like really just simple and sweet. And I have a community of people that I could have never dreamed of having, and I have like rebuilt relationships with folks. And today it's just like, I don't know what's gonna happen next. I'm just so curious, and I know that like whatever comes, like earlier this year with my work, there was like a lot of stuff happening. My employer was losing clients left and right, and I was like, I think I'm gonna get fired. And not because I had done anything wrong, but just because like the business wasn't doing well. And that's since it's changed, but I was okay with that. I was like, you know what, I'll figure it out. And I would have been spinning out about it for weeks, in addiction, and been drinking about it and making it worse probably. And today I can just like show up and do the best that I can and know that everything else will work out.
Yeah, that would have made me freak out too. Yeah. And I would have started doing things to sabotage myself.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. And started confronting my boss. What's going on? What's going on? Yeah. And now it's just like, what happens, happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. You mentioned your network that you have, and I know a lot of your friends, and you really do have a really good network of friends that are really good, true blue people. And I've found that for myself as well. I've got friends that I can call no matter what, and they'll talk to me, and they're not going to mince words with me. And I'm somebody who responds better when you're not mincing words. Yeah. I just, I'm straight to the point, get her done. Yeah. I don't want I don't want to guess what you're trying to tell me.
Mhm.
And I have a lot of those friends, and I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Because you can rely on them, and you know they're being honest with you.
Yeah. And this sounds a little harsh, but I find that I have less time for people that aren't like that. And I had a lot of fair weather friends. I had a lot of friends that around that I just knew would buy me drinks and were like not actually good people to me or whatever, or like I could always get some, and there's just none of that today. I don't have it at all.
I had a lot of people I knew would buy me drinks, but people just to hang out with, you know, and and there's a lot of people that I hung out with, and we hung out all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But when I stepped out of that circle, I don't think any of them missed me.
No.
I think there may have been one or two that were like, "Hey, what's going on?" But none of them even missed me.
Yeah.
And so I look at that and I think, were they friends? Or were they just people I hung out with?
Yeah.
And it was just people I hung out with because...
Today, if I go a week without seeing or talking to most of the people in my life, they're gonna call me and text me and see what's going on.
Yes, same here. And even people that I haven't seen or talked to for months and months, if I call them, they're there, and they'll eventually check in on me as well. But it's a big difference. Because you're true to you, and you know who you are, and so you're attracting people that are the same. And I love that.
Me too.
Well, I really appreciate that you gave me this time today, and I know that your story is going to help other people. And if you would like to share your story, I'd love to interview you. Please reach out to me through LovePrevails, or you can reach out to me through Messenger, and I'd love to be able to interview you. Your best life is waiting for you. Please connect with me. We're going to find it together, and I hope that you all have a wonderful week. And thanks again.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.